reacquainted after many years of being absent from each other. We worked at Rita Road under Brian Potter, followed by Gene Hall when Brian couldn't take it anymore. Not because of Tao, mind you. For some, a stint in quality is just a stepping stone. It takes a special breed to be able to stick it out in quality, which brings me back to the T cubed Q. Tao had what it takes to do a quality job. She had the technical background to be able to identify software problems and document them. And she had the tenacity to stick to it. Stick to the issues and see them through to closure. I had the dubious honor of helping Cindy Beathard clear out Tao's cube after Bill collected her personal defects. We offered Bill the multitude of awards and certificates she had to her credit, which he declined. In his words, he didn't need them to remind him of Tao's many accomplishments or of the amazing woman she was. And I certainly agree with him. But I think it's fitting to mention at least some of those accomplishments here at this memorial so that her efforts can serve as inspiration to those of us who are left behind to carry on her work. Aside from the mundane stuff like compliance training, Tao's collection of awards and certificates speaks to her tirelessness, even in the face of this long, drawn-out battle with cancer. She received individual or team achievement awards on 4 programs, although I could only find certificates for 3 programs, JSOL, Paveway, and SM3. I knew she got one from Gene while on EKV because I was there when he presented it to her. No, that's wrong. She was there when Gene presented me with an award, one that she had recommended for me. She was my lead. That's exactly the kind of person she was. She was my lead at the time and wanted to recognize me for the work I had done. Anyway, she was also certified by the Emission Assurance Certification Program as a software quality level 5, and she earned R6 Sigma certification. Tao kept her technical skills current by completing courses for a Scrum practitioner, intermediate C++, CM Synergy for developers, Rational Team Concert for developers, Introduction to Software Engineering, and RFRACUS tool. She had a CV with Introduction to Technical Missiles on it, and I know she took the course. These are only the certificates and evidence we could find while we were there trying to clear out a queue. She seemed to want to pack as much knowledge and accomplishments into her time here at Raytheon as possible, which was less than 5 years. I think she truly appreciated how fleeting life can be, so she lived as though each day could be her last. She loved achievement. Some of you may have been unaware of the devastating pain she could have been experienced at any time when you encountered her, because Tao always had the ability to muster up a smile. I remember having to tell her to go home after her chemo treatments because she would always be so focused on getting the job done, she would always say she was coming back afterwards. That 3rd T stands for toughness. Through most of her time here, the cancer had been in remission, but she recounted to me over the 18 years it had been a regular visitor. When she was first diagnosed, the doctor gave her 3 years, she told me. After 18 years, she was again on the road to beating back this thing that she had done battle with for the better part of her adult life. And although this recurrence came on with a vengeance, Tao took it in stride. When chemo proved ineffective, she tried changing her diet, which showed some improvement in her general health, but it was not until she returned to Vietnam to pray at a monastery that she experienced a real breakthrough. It was the power of prayer that made the biggest difference in her condition. how tragically ironic that at the height of her recovery, she would be taken away from us so suddenly. Whatever God's plan, I'm just grateful to have crossed paths with Tao Wandel. She gave me a greater appreciation for quality people, which brings me to the final letter in this acronym stream, Q. Tao embedded the principles not only by which we as practitioners work, but by which we live our lives as people. And sure, there are degrees of quality. But if you were fortunate enough, as I was, to have heard the story of how she immigrated to the United States from Vietnam, the awful hand she was dealt, then knowing her accomplishments, there would be no doubt that Tao Wandel was the highest quality human being imaginable. Finally, a word on Tao's relationship with Bill. Anyone could tell by the way his name rolled off her lips how much she adored him, and he adored her. Bill asked me to come over and help him move a dining room table one day, and when I got there, he showed me the Buddhist temple they built in their home. They were anticipating a visit from their spiritual leader, so they were making dining preparations. As it turned out, the temple where they normally worship had been closed, so they had bought the home with the expressed purpose of converting the two-car garage into this beautiful temple so that their spiritual leader could have a place to pray with them when he came to town. That's the kind of people I'm talking about. They were kind enough to take me to the top of Mount Lemmon one weekend when I got to see the firsthand how loving and adoring a couple they were. Bill drove and Tao snuggled up in the back seat with a comforter. This gave me the best possible panoramic view of the scenery up and down the mountain. I'd never been up there before. I was in the passenger seat of their car. It was a lovely day, but a bit cooler at the top. Bill was very careful not to drive too fast, and he made sure Tao was very comfortable. Her cancer had already returned, but she wanted so badly for me to see Mount Lemmon. I told her I hadn't seen it. So she convinced Bill to make the trip. If Bill turned the curve a little too fast, Tao would complain, and Bill would say ever so gently, "Yes, dear," and continue on slowly. We stopped at a picnic site at the top of the mountain where we set up a canopy over the picnic table to keep the sun from beating down on us. Tao and Bill ate their vegetarian or vegan lunches, and I, the omnivore, chowed down on a turkey sandwich.
It's your karma, Israel.
You know what you eat, Bill? She told me how the change in diet had been significant in improving her health, but that the chemo was not working. I believe it was then that she mentioned her plan to go back to Vietnam to pray with the monks. Bill, the ever patient one, of course, supported her in her decision, just as he had stood by her throughout their marriage. It was a true pleasure to be with them in that setting. That weekend may have been among the last enjoyable days for Tao here in Tucson, as her condition as well as the treatment started to take a toll on her. I was sad, but at the same time happy to hear she had gone back to Vietnam when I returned from an almost month-long PTO in January. Then when the news of the tragedy came, I was utterly floored. She was a good friend, an excellent colleague, and an amazing human being. I will truly miss her.
try to be as calm as Bill has. My name's Gene Hall, for those that you don't know me. I first met Tao several years ago with Bill's gaming group that my son and I had participated in, and then he invited us over to their house, and so we met Tao for the first time. Then through a number of job changes and such, I ended up running the organization that Tao worked at when I came over there, and she was on Standard Missile 3 at the time. You know, I have had great admiration for Tao as an employee, and I always felt that she was working, and I knew what she was going through, and yet you wouldn't know it looking at her at work or the way she acted. And she always made me feel like I got more when I left than I came with. You know, I'm trying there to help motivate her, try to see if she would take off time and be, you know, not worry about us, that we're going to get things done. And when I left, I felt like I was the one that was sick, and she had comforted me when I left. It was very uplifting. And I thoroughly enjoyed all those times together. It really hurt me when